Hi everyone. I'm here to introduce the theming and page structure of Habitat to give you an impression of how pages and sites are built in Habitat and what the flexibility of the framework is. So first of all, a quick related view on what is Habitat. So Habitat is a flexible framework for building Sitecore solutions internally in Sitecore. Solutions that we're building on the Habitat framework is everything from demos to tech demos to training material, proof of concept, and custom demos for our customers. Eventually, over time, Habitat will cover the entire product suite of Sitecore. So everything from today, the experience management platform, the CMS, the analytics, the optimization platform, commerce, print, email, and all that. Habitat is fundamentally built in a modular approach. So the underlying approach and methodology under it is modular, so that new features can be plugged in over time in existing sites, or you can create new sites that leverage these new features. The point is that new features can be brought in without having to integrate them with the existing features or rigorously test the whole feature set, but focus on the development of single features as opposed to a whole website. So in another way, Sitecore Habitat is broken down into different features that cover different parts of a traditional website. So think of navigation, content, or articles, FAQ, search, different business-oriented features that a website would typically contain. Of course, this varies from business vertical to business verticals, which means that the more business verticals we need, if we have something like financial services, we now might need a portal type system where we can log in and see more customer related information. But on top of the features, we build sites. So the sites is what brings all the features together to create pages and navigations and hierarchies and those kind of things. And of course, the demo, the full suite of demos will be a number of different sites or different solutions that have different sites. Some of the business verticals might have different brand sites or campaign sites, and each of them can leverage different features that we built on top of the experience platform. And when we bring in additional products such as commerce, we'll build additional features, and those features will be plugged into specific verticals. So if there's a business vertical for retail, that is most likely one of the ones that will leverage commerce then. So we'll have an actual e-commerce retail site, perhaps next to their brand site. So and additional products and additional span of the Sitecore product suite will then spawn additional features like email or print and those kind of things. Now, next to the demos, we'll have things like the training sites. So our different business user training, marketing training sites will be built on Habitat and use the same feature set. Some of the same feature set might extend with additional features. And have their own sites and their own hierarchies and their own sort of navigational universe. And then when customers ask for proof of concept specific tailored demos, we will use the same features, the same approach to build custom tailored demos for our customers. Now, on top of all this, we'll have a theming layer. So the visual appearance of the sites that spans some or all of the sites, and each of these sites, so that you'll perhaps have a common appearance across all the sites, but you can also vary these greatly because of the business vertical needs or the feature specific needs. We'll have to have a certain flexibility in the visual appearance of the websites as well. Likewise, in some of the proof of concepts, we might need to completely change the theming so that it has a more customer-centric visual appearance. So this is sort of the complete range of flexibility that is in Habitat and in the building of the different sites, the different solutions, the different modules, the different features, those kind of things. So if we look at some of the requirements of what the theming and the page structure has to encompass is, first of all, the standard theming has to be easily adopted or is easily adopted by new features and solutions. So when a new feature comes in or we want to build a new solution on top, it's quite easy to use the existing theming and build on with that. Now, we also need the theming and the structure of the pages to be flexible enough to cater for the business scenarios and the site features. This means that we need, likewise, so this is maybe two opposites. When we build a new feature, it has to be really easy to plug it into the existing standard theming to make it visually coherent with the rest. But on the other hand, we also need different sites, different solutions to be distinctly different because of their business needs or because we simply want a customer to be more customer-centric. We also need, for the technical adoption, we cannot adopt our own, we cannot create our own methodology here. We need to follow the standards and only extend those standards where there is no standard. So to assure that when we build new features that they're compatible with the existing set of features and pluggable into the solutions, we have to have a standardized approach to what the markup or how we build the different components on the pages. So this is where we've chosen Bootstrap as a standardized approach, and we adhere very strictly to the semantics of Bootstrap, which means that we cannot tailor a specific visual component on a page to that page. It has to only be built in a manner that is consistent with itself. So if it is a list, it's a list. Then it's up to the website to determine or the page itself to determine how is this page visually shown on the page. We'll get back to that. So let's just go through some concept of page layouts, page structures, and what components are. So the page layout is the general structure of the page. So is there a header? How is the content shown? Is it full width of the page? Is it fixed width? Is there a top header with, on this Habitat site, there's a couple of links on the top. Do we have that across all the pages? What kind of footer do we have? Is it a fat footer? Is it just a very basic footer? Do we have a centered logo? How does the header, how is that built up? And generally the page layouts are per solution. So, and I say page layouts as in plural because one solution, if one solution, let's say a specific business vertical, has multiple websites, we can have multiple layouts. So we can have, if a business vertical have multiple sites, so campaign sites, brand sites, those kind of things, then we can have multiple layouts for different sites. The second thing is page structure. So a page structure is something that is defined typically per page type. So an article page like this example, or a news page, or a section page, or a person page, or a team member page. We'd have a specific structure for that kind of page. And the structure has to do with all the content in the middle, so below the header and above the footer. So how is the page header set up? How is the sections on the content page? We'll get back to how that's structured. But we can also vary the page structure for each specific page. So if we've got a specific article, then if we want to emphasize something with even more data, so maybe have more related information, we can add another section to that content, to that specific page, to the content area of that specific page. Now components are then all the little bits and pieces of content and functionality that goes on the page. So every single piece of content is a component, or every single button, or every single cohesive piece of content or functionality is a component. So each component relates to a module or a feature on the website. So let's say the menu in the top, the main menu, is related to the navigation. So the menus and the link menus that you have in the very top, the breadcrumb, those kind of things, they're all defined in the navigation feature. Likewise, the content in the middle, the find out more and the lead there, and the content, the actual body text, relates to a page content feature. So there's different features that plug in different components. Now, since these components are created in the features and not in the websites, they have no concept of what pages they're shown on, which means that they are semantically defined. They just know they are a navigation element. They're not really related to how they're visually apparent on the page. So what color are they? What width are they? So a component that is placed in different areas can then change depending on its context. So another element is that a component like this download here, it might change if you show it in a wider column. It might expand to be wider, and the image underneath, or if there's an image underneath, might adapt to that. But we can also vary. We have different variants of components. So this is a teaser. And we can, of course, show a background image on the background. We can change the background color. We can have different elements of the content shown or not shown. Show the picture, don't show the picture. Show the lead, don't show the lead. Those kind of things. So one component type can have different variants, which means that you get quite a lot of flexibility in building up your pages and building up the page structure and the different components you put on the page. Also, the visual theming, so the colors and the fonts, we can change depending on the site, depending on the solution. So each solution can have its own sub-theme. So we can define colors and sub-themes for each site. You can also, of course, rip out the entire theme and create everything from scratch. It's again, it's a standardized Bootstrap approach. So any front-end developer that has a good knowledge of Bootstrap would be able to create a theme for Bootstrap, or a color theme on top of Bootstrap. So let's break it down into the specific areas, and we'll end in the end. I'll show you an example of how to build up pages in Habitat. So first of all, as I mentioned, we use the Bootstrap framework and methodology. So Habitat is using that Bootstrap 12-column grid. We've applied an additional layer on top, just simply because we need the components to be aware of where they're shown in a wide or a narrow context. But we can't drill it down all the way down to 1 column, 2 column, up to 12. So we've defined 3 types of columns. So there's a narrow column, which is everything less than 5 Bootstrap columns. We've got wide columns, and we've got a huge column, which is everything. And of course, the type of components, or the components that can be shown in different column types, we might not be able to show a carousel in a col narrow, for example, in a narrow column. That only applies to a wide or a huge column. On the other hand, we might not want to show a left menu or a secondary navigation in a huge column, because it doesn't make sense. That is meant to be in a narrow column. So that is the way the editor can work with the different components and build up the pages, are defined by which components fits in with which kind of columns. So the general page layout is that we have 4 elements on the page, and we'll go through the 4 elements in the following slides. But it's a header, a page container in the middle, or the container or the content in the middle, and then a footer. The page header is optional and can be used for different aspects. There's also some off-canvas panels that slide in. That it's possible to add those to the page layout to make them slide in and out of the page. They're generally not editable. It's for a tool or demo tools, and less for a dynamic page buildup. It's also possible to change the whole page layout to be in a fixed width. This means that when you pull sort of the width of the page, the background image in each of the sections, for example, or the columns in each of the sections and the page container and the footer and the header doesn't change its width. It stays the same width. And that way, of course, there can be a background color or a background image on the whole site. So the header. So let's go into the header. The header will contain typically 2 sections, or it has 2 sections by default. It has a top header, which is in Habitat, in the standard Habitat site that you see, has the little social icons and those kind of things. Then there's a navigation bar that shows the actual main navigation, the logo, and the navigation, or the nav bar activities, which is like the search, the language changer, those kind of things. Typically, if you want that. The header can be changed depending on the variations in the theme, so you can make it white or dark, or you can use the main theme color to change the appearance of the header. It can also be have two different navigational or 2 different visual appearances. So if you scroll down the page, the header can stick to the top of the page even though you're halfway down the page, or it can be fixed to the top or static, so that when you scroll, it goes away under the page default. Underneath the header, there's a page header. Now this is optional, and it's sort of a main a visual element that goes in the top of the page. It has a fluid container, so it fills the entire width of the page. So you can have things like a carousel or a static call to action, or just a background image with, let's say, the breadcrumb, those kind of things, or the page title, to make it more stand out. The content area here is then broken up into sections. So the content area can contain a number of sections. A section itself is always the width of the page. So of course, if it's a fixed width page layout, then the sections are defined or are fixed. But otherwise, the sections are stretches out to the entire width of the browser. Each section can have different background colors, different background images. So you can have parallax images, you can have videos, you can have white sections, dark sections, or themed color sections. And the components that go in that then adapt to that to that context. So a section, inside one section, you can add a number of different containers so that defines whether the section is a full width or a fixed width container. If we take a wide container that spreads out across, then the rows and the columns that you put inside will stretch to the full width of the page. Imagine having a gallery where you have, let's say, three narrow columns with images in them, and as the browser expands out, the images will then scale to fit the width of the page all the time. And the whole way of editing the page is very dynamic. So the editor that works in Sitecore can build these pages up by themselves. Of course, we can predefine those in the page type. So when he creates a news page or a section page, we have predefined sections and rows and columns. But the editor can also work and add more sections or change the appearance of the existing ones. If a row is fixed, then the section underneath might have a background color or a background image that spans the entire width, but the row inside or the container inside would only have the fixed width or the columns will have a fixed width. We have some specific article layouts so this is more of a semantic SEO specific setup. So if you have a page article or an article page, like a news article or just a content article, then we can use these asides and article layouts so that we mark them up specifically as articles. And then you got this aside on the left hand side where you can typically put a navigation, a secondary navigation or things like that, or teasers related content. The aside will have a narrow column and the article will have a wide column. So again, you can use the existing components and add them to the different columns. There's also an option for using both a right and a left sidebar at the same time, so have navigation in the one and the related content in the other, so those kind of things. In the footer, the last part of the page is where we typically have, or we can have two different elements. One is a big section that has like a fat footer with additional columns that goes across the different pages on the website. And then in the bottom we have a typical like a legal info or some links to legal pages and those kind of things. So let's dive into an example of how to work or how editors will work with Habitat and how pages can be set up dynamically. Okay, so let's have a look at the Habitat website and how to work with it and the flexibility of the layout. So this is the Habitat website. If I go and browse around, I will be able to read a little about the architecture of the solution, look at different videos, those kind of things, some of the architectural principles. There is the different modules that we have inside the solution is described on this page, which has examples of the different modules, like the person module here with the different teasers and an employee list here, where I can go into a specific team member, those kind of things. Go to the more info page that we looked at in the presentation. I can go through here and look at that article page. In the right hand side there's a little info panel that shows what Sitecore is collecting about the person as he goes along, the different engagement value, the pages that they've seen, how many visits they've been on here on this website, the device they're using, what information we know about the customer, so if they've logged in and those kind of things, if we profile them in different personas or they triggered goals or outcomes, and what the referrals or any campaigns they've been associated with. Right, so in the same solution, we actually have one of the demo sites included, which is the Sitecore Legal Services site. So this is the content for that. So we have a big call to action in the top here, And if we scroll down, there's a bit more information about the different activities they have, some news, and we have a team list down here, and a simple footer here. You might think, yes, this is very close to the same visual appearance as the Habitat site. So we've not done much in the theming side of things. There are some layout differences. For example, there's no top header up here on the site here. The footer on this site is very clean and simple. Only the legal notice with a couple links to that, to those kind of things. There's, if we go into the actual registration pages, there's some forms that you can fill out. There's some financial information, some downloads. You can trigger different goals here. What we've set up is the full experience platform. So, for example, the profiling works here. So you can see the profiling work across the pages. So I'm now profiled as Lucas the lawyer. We can see which goals we've triggered historically, because this is actually I'm already been identified on this website, so I've already logged in previously. So the cookie I have is actually remembering me as me. So I've visited this site 31 times actually. Okay. So let's go back to Habitat. Now, if I switch over to Sitecore, so this is the Sitecore Launchpad, where I can access all the tools in Sitecore. If I go, I'm on the Habitat domain now. So if I go to the Experience Editor, I will start editing. I will start editing the Habitat pages. So let me just go and just disable the editing and designing for a while, so I can browse around. But let me go to the more info page. So the more info page is an article page. If I go and create a new, article underneath here, it will show me a dialog in a second. It's just starting up, so I can create a new article under here. If I go ahead and do that, then it'll be a blank article page, but you can see it sort of has the same layout with the breadcrumb up here, a background image which is taken from the article, and it's a default one right now because I haven't set anything up, and then the text here. So there's a title and a lead and a content title as well. Of course, what I can do is just go and edit this page. So I can actually edit everything here, the little title that is shown in navigation. So I'll just call it example article, like that. And if I go and save that, you can see that is actually the title that is shown up here in the menu as well. It's different from the page title here. There's a summary or a lead here, and then a body text, and then the navigation title here. So this is the left menu over here. Now, if I want to extend this with even more, I can go into the design mode. And at this point, I can start adding things to the page. So let me just go up the hierarchy here, like that. And then at some point, I'll hit the, maybe just click here. And then I can see all the places. Since I'm an administrator, I can do a lot of stuff here. So right now I've got a page header up here. So this is the page header. Now I've chosen a page header with an image. If I go and change the layout of that, then, oops, sorry, that's wrong. If I just go ahead and remove that image and then add another one, add the page header here with a media, then I can go and choose the type of header. So let me choose let me try just a primary color one. So that'll give me a nice red one, which is the primary theme color for this theme. I can also put in a media one, which will then, for example, I'll just insert a a Sitecore video like that. So that actually gives me a nice video in the background of the header. And then let me start adding additional sections here. So if I add down here to the sections area, I can add another section here to the page. Now this is a plain section. I can also add a section with the media. So let me just add a again, change the properties of that. Change this to a nice red one, like that. And then in here, as I described in the presentation, in the section I can then choose the columns that I want to put in. So how many columns do I want? I want a 3-column 4x4 one. So like that. I can go and change that to be the full width of the page. So like that. And then I can start adding things like carousels, images, menus, latest news, teasers to pages, teasers to contacts or to employees, to team members, quotes, things like that. Let me put a quote in here. So I'll just use this one and add that here. So that'll give me a nice quote there. And then let me add a content teaser here, like that, which is the download one. And then you can see what I can do on this one is I can start varying that. So if I change this, click this little button, replace with another component, I see the components that are compatible with that. So these are the different variants of a content teaser. So let me just show this one, which is just the title and summary. So like that. Oh, the color is a bit wrong on that one. So let me go and add a video with a light box here, last one. So that'll be this one. Right. Right, and let me just switch this back so it makes more sense with this one. Right. So now we've actually got a page, and if I just go and save this and just switch over to the other browser, I can then go to the more info page, and then down here, you can see the example articles now here. So I click this one and I'll come to my new article page that's built up. So it gives me some flexibility in building up the pages. I can actually remove this one as well and change this to be something else. So the combination of page headers, sections, and components, and the column layouts and those kind of things gives you a lot of flexibility to build the pages and the page types as we want. Now, as I mentioned, we have the legal website in here. So let's just go into the content editor to show just how that is built up. So you can see here we have the hierarchy or the navigational structure for the Habitat website here. Some pages are not shown in the menu. That's like the registration and the login pages, those kind of things. Likewise, we have the legal website here with the different pages for that. But we also have different page types. So if I open this area called templates, then under project, we've got two different projects. We've got a Habitat project, which is the page types for the Habitat website. And you can see that's it's a pretty short list of different page types that I can build this page from, or this site from, sorry. Likewise, under legal, we have another set of page types. So these are the page types that define the legal website. And as you can see, and as I mentioned in the presentation, the page structure is inherently defined on the page type as a beginning. So when I create a new article on the Habitat page, that can be vastly different from if I create an article page on the legal site. So that way, building up different page types is site specific. I can even have different brand sites under the legal solution or the legal. So I can have different subsites. Let's say if they want a specific site for a campaign, we can create specific page types for that campaign. So it gives us a lot of flexibility in building up the solutions, the sites, the page types, and the specific pages. So lots of flexibility, lots of different combinations to create the site and the visual appearance that fit with a business area or a specific call to action or a campaign, whatever you want to call it.